So the final game of the day in the Premier League on Saturday, and, well, had plenty drama, plenty talking points, and a goal right at the death as well. It finished Tottenham Hotspur 2, Liverpool 1. Janusz, Michallik and Mark Ogden with me to discuss. And Mark, we'll start with you at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What did you make of that?
I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, it's just a crazy game. You see, when you got a team down to 9 men, the home team should win. And 20 minutes with 9 men, the home team should win. But I think at times that would be unfair on Liverpool, because Liverpool, for me, were even down to 9 men, so organised, they worked so hard, and it wasn't the easiest job in the world for Tottenham to get past them. They weren't using the width as much as they should do, and when they finally did, they put a cross in for which Joel Matip scored the own goal. But I think this, for me, was the Premier League at its best. It was two teams playing to the absolute peak of their abilities. Both sets of players working so hard. I couldn't pick a player that was below par today. I thought they were 8 and 9s out of 10 all over the pitch, and I think Alisson Becker was outstanding. Half of the Tottenham team were fantastic. I think sometimes, as a journalist, you kind of try and find the negative and criticise, but I don't think you can criticise from that game today. Even if Tottenham hadn't won, you still have to say that is because Liverpool was so good in what they had to do and so disciplined.
Janusz, so many talking points. We'll get to them all. Where do you want to start? Your choice.
There was so much. To start with, controversy with Luis Diaz and, was his goal onside or not? I think the red cards were right. You're talking the yellow cards and, the controversy, obviously, when it comes to that. But I think, before we even do it quickly, you have to say, I thought it was excellent. Tactically well done. I agree with Augie about the fact that it was difficult for Spurs because this is right up the alley of Liverpool, right? I mean, even with a man down at first, they're well balanced these times, this season defensively, and they love to play on the counter. They have the sort of players that can hurt you. And if you remember, after 1-0, then they had a goal, a close goal. I think Salah, great ball to Luis Diaz just before halftime. That could have been 2. So excellent game, tactically well done, even by Klopp when they went to 9 men down. And now let's get to the red cards. And Mark, I know you want to have a go at PGMOL.
Well, you've got to be careful because you can have a go, and then if it turns out that they were right because the offside was correct, it looks like it was wrong. We'll get to that in a second, but chronologically, as Janusz said, Mark, let's start with the red card. Simon Hooper was called over by VAR to potentially upgrade the yellow, which he did. What did you think from being in the stadium? Was it a yellow or was it a red for you?
Yeah, listen, I think it was a red, and I'm glad to hear Janusz kind of say it was a red as well, because I've seen a lot of ex-pros either on social media or on TV saying that it was never a red because he got the ball first. This line that if you get the ball first, it's not a foul. I mean, he rolled over the ball. He very faintly got the ball, Curtis Jones, but that's still of the tackle on Bissouma. It was a leg breaker. Now again, people are saying, "Oh, well, you can't slow it down to a still." Well, if that's what the end result is, that it's a challenge that could break somebody's leg, then you have to slow it down. It was a reckless challenge. I don't think that Curtis Jones did it maliciously, but that isn't the point. It was dangerous, and when they showed it on the big screen in the stadium, the shock amongst the Spurs fans was you could hear the gasp, and then they started booing Jones off. So I'd imagine Jurgen Klopp might go against it, but I think we have to say that was a red card all day long.
And how
sorry, Janusz, on you go.
How I explained that to myself as a former player, because you can go either way on it, right? My initial reaction is getting the ball unintentional, but it's not about that really. Because think about it, this is a 50-50 tackle, which we've all gone, right? And you have to go with a certain amount of force in that. Look at Bissouma, control with his laces, with his instep, as if he wants to kick the ball. On the other hand, if you look at that tackle, Curtis Jones goes with studs up, goes over the ball. You better get it right. Of course, he didn't mean it, but that leg in that picture, by the way, everybody's talking about the picture. Oh, it's easy to. Yeah, the picture's there for a reason. I think it's a red end of story, really, and in so many ways, I almost want to say, it's a definition of a red card. I know I'm going to get some flack from this, but it really, really is. If you really want to be honest with yourself, and where I lean, I have a soft spot for Liverpool. So at first I wanted to say, oh no, of course not, but it really was a red, and to me it was end of discussion.
I mean, sorry, Matt, just say if that wasn't given as a red card, if VAR ignored it and the ref didn't, that would have been held up forever and a day as how can they miss this? That was
Yeah.
a red card. That,
Yes.
I'm sorry, a lot of, Janusz, to be fair, is maybe in the minority of former pros that think it was a red, but it was a red. And to say it wasn't, it's such a dangerous challenge, malicious or otherwise, it's a red card.
A lot of the time, it depends on what colour of scarf you've got. If you're a Spurs fan or if you're a Liverpool fan, you'll think it was or it wasn't. Bottom line is, Law 12, fouls and misconduct. Was it careless? It was more than that. Was it reckless? Or was it using excessive force? That's the three categories. Careless is a free kick. Reckless is a yellow card. Using excessive force is a red. It's funny you mentioned the ex-pros, Mark, as well, because I wonder how many of them are actually up to date on the laws of the game. Because the first time I saw that, I thought, nah, that's probably a yellow. It's borderline, but it's probably a yellow. Then you see it again, you think, oh, he's going to be hard done by if he gets a red card for this. But then you look at the laws of the game, the way that they are written. When Janusz played, when these ex-pros played, it was a different game now. And that can be frustrating, can't it, Janusz?
So, yes, sure. But I mean, lots of the games have changed. I mean, I had to know lots of the games the moment I signed when I was 7, 8 years old. And the book was this thin. Now you have variation on everything. I promise you, no player knows lots of the games out there. They may know some. These decisions are made in an instant, and you can't be thinking what may or may not be. The gray areas, I mean, I don't even know if we can call it gray areas because it's even more than that. It's an interpretation that nobody would understand. The managers would not be able to explain it to players. I'm sure every team has a special 1 or 2 or 3 people. I mean, it's getting out there. I mean, this one, I'm not saying it was simple. Maybe it was simpler than that. But at the end of the day, it has to be. The second one, I don't really know if it needs discussion because Jota, I mean, that's a clear second yellow card. Even if you don't think the first one, he was out there for 20 minutes, and that foul was committed within 2 fouls were committed within 90 seconds. He's got to know better.
Okay, we speak about the laws of the game. Offside. Okay, you've got to have 2 defensive players between you and the goal to be onside. It looked like that was the case. The goalkeeper, and I think it was Van de Ven, the Spurs defender. Now, we've got to be careful here because, as you can see with Oggy at the stadium, this is just after the game. So normally when PGMOL have a decision to back up, they'll do it pretty quickly and they'll say, no, we're firmly behind our officials. They got it right. We've still not heard anything. And this is now 5-10 minutes after the game. So there's an expectation that they might have got it wrong and they might be looking for excuses, or they might now be putting something together to say that we got it wrong and put their hands up. This is probably one of these, Oggy, that is going to be a kind of rolling story. I know you're going to go and head to the press conference after this. Then we're going to hear from Jurgen Klopp. Then we're going to hear from PGMOL, I'm sure, as well. But if it was the wrong decision, and if PGMOL come out and say, we screwed up, that should not have been offside, how are Liverpool going to react to this?
Well, they won't be happy. And we've had clubs receive apologies before. It means nothing at the end of the day because you can't replay the game or replay the goal. That's it. PGML, if they've got it wrong, will have to apologise. But what was unusual is the sense that we didn't see a graphic with the lines on that justified the decision either on TV or in the stadium. So that's what we're waiting for. Usually they're very quick to show it, and it's the sense that, look, this is why it's offside, and here's the lines to show it. So we're still waiting for that. But like I say, if they've got it wrong, then, I mean, we keep getting told that you can't get offside wrong, really, because it's kind of, it's not subjective. It's a fact, isn't it? It's either onside or it's offside, even if it's a millimetre. So I've been looking forward to hearing what their explanation is. But ultimately, if it is wrong, there's nothing that we can do about it because, like I said, we can't replay the game. It happens and you move on.
Super equaliser, Janusz, for Cody Gakpo, wasn't it? I was worried he'd done his knee afterwards. He didn't come out and we still await the extent of that. But it looked like Spurs were heading in with a 1-goal lead, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, there was a chance right after that. Not that Spurs didn't have their own chances after halftime. Remember, I mean, Alisson with 2 incredible saves, I think, and Richarlison, one of them, and maybe Son was the other. But I think, in terms of offside, I almost don't want to hear it because I think we got to talk about the team, both teams. Excellent, right? I mean, they show resilience. Both teams will get a lot out of it. Even Liverpool, even if they learned that was a goal, there's plenty of time left. But this is a team for real, right? That you knew even with 9 men, you were kind of saying, oh my goodness, are they going to get another one? Just like in Newcastle, obviously 10 men, but they got a winner. But I think, look at Spurs. I mean, the complete change. I mean, here's a team that was timid, mentally weak in a way, low on confidence, and all of a sudden, look, they're playing, scoring in 90, last 10 seconds of the game, and maybe part of it is Ange, and never mind his tactics, but just a likable figure, somebody that they trust, they're happy to play for. Fans are happy after Conte and Mourinho, wherever it is, he's changed the team. And Jurgen Klopp, you got to give him credit because, look, all players came back. I know some are going to be suspended and injured, but I looked at that bench and there was so much quality in it. You were waiting if it wasn't for cards. And in the very end, we have to talk about the quality, tactical quality of both teams. They will be fine for the rest of the season, I think. The only thing about refereeing to end that is, Mark, because I have a question for you, because that didn't seem, I didn't count how many cards there were, but there was an incredible amount of cards shown by Simon Hughes. Never mind the red, the yellow is probably 9, 10, 11, whatever it was. It didn't feel like that sort of a game. It was intense for sure, but I don't know if he was completely in control, aside from whatever you think about the red cards ultimately, but the yellow cards in between, not saying that he was wrong, but just didn't have a feel like it was that kind of game.
It definitely wasn't that kind of game. It was a great game, a great flowing game, two sides, a lot of respect for each other and just going at it non-stop. And I think there were you're right, there were a few yellow cards that were dished out. I'd actually lost count of how many there were. But the two that stood out for me were the first Jota one, I don't think was a foul or a yellow card. I think Udogie tripped himself. And the other one was the Andy Robertson one at the end where he kind of collided with, I think it was Porro, and it wasn't really an elbow. It was a bit of a mess. So the referee, Sam Hooper, backed himself into a corner by making those decisions. There's a kind of after that, he's a kind of knocking effect in the sense that he had to send Jota off because for his second one, he can blame Jota for being silly enough to get booked. But obviously Hooper, the referee, put himself into that position. But just to add to what you're saying about Ange Postecoglou, there's just two things about this Tottenham side that really impressed me. First of all, Postecoglou. For the first time in a long time, I think Tottenham have got a manager who doesn't act as though he's doing the club a favour by being here. And what I mean by that is the egos of Conte and Mourinho and Pochettino to a lesser extent, he has none of that. And at the end of the game, they were playing this song that the Spurs fans have adopted, Robbie Williams' Angels song. They've adopted it and changed the words. And just as they were getting to the part where they sing Postecoglou's name, he jogged off the pitch. It was almost like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be serenaded by. I don't want to be at me. Right? And that, for me, is a massive difference. Because when the manager is as humble as that, I think it rubs off on his players. And the team, it is humble, and it's also a very hard-working team. There's so much personality in it as well, and character. Maddison, Bissouma, Son, Richarlison. They've got real tenacity, which we don't really associate with Tottenham. I think Postecoglou's brought that in with his calmness and that air of that personality he's got. He's just got this really likeable personality, but also you can imagine the players thinking, I trust this guy, and he's backing me. And I think it's early days, but Spurs were unbeaten and they pulled off a 97th minute winner, so it has to be working.
Celtic fans, Janusz, will know all about Ange Postecoglou. Australia fans will know it as well. There's a team in the J-League that'll know all about it as well. It's just that we're never beaten until the final whistle goes. It's that mentality of running through the brick wall for the coach and making sure that right up until the last minute, you keep playing. You might be frustrated like Spurs were because Liverpool defended heroically up until the end, and then Joel Matip puts through his own net. But there's just something about Ange, isn't there? And his teams that have belief in the mold of the coach.
Well, because he's like Klopp. That's why this game was maybe better. I think it was excellent. I don't know how people perceive this match, but I thought it was excellent because there's zero doubt what these two managers came here to get. Those 3 points and to entertain. High press from the beginning. Both teams, right? It had a feel that not just Ange but Klopp. Those teams are out there to force a mistake, not to wait for it, right? Where with Spurs in particular, that hasn't been the case for the most part. It's like, hey, you can have it. We'll sit here. Let's see what we can get out of it. And week in, week out, there's never a change. And here it was, because I would have understood if Ange changed a little bit, right? Coming into this game, high profile, Liverpool's coming to town, unbeaten, this, that, or the other, and maybe just see how this game develops. But from the beginning, these two teams said, look, we're here for one thing and one thing only, and that's 3 points. And I think we saw that throughout the game, even when Liverpool were down a man and then two as well. That hasn't changed. They knew they had the sort of players with the tactical changes. By the way, I love what Klopp did there to go to 3 in the back. Could have gone differently. It became 5. They were still somewhat dangerous. And Ange, I think a lot of it, I don't know percentage-wise, Mark, but I think he's just a likable figure. And our perception of Spurs, if you're neutral, has completely changed. Never mind the tactics and the quality, which they have in abundance.
My thanks to Janusz and to Mark Ogden as well. Full coverage of the post-match press conferences at ESPNFC.com. Thanks, Oggy. And I await with bated breath and with great interest PGMOL's reasoning. If it was offside, it was offside. If it wasn't...
Give us the lines. Give us the lines.
Draw the line. Oggy, get your pens out and go and draw the lines as you head off to the press conference. Full time. Spurs 2, Liverpool 1. That's only half the story.